Welcome to the Keeping the Nostalgia Alive show. I am your host, Billy Powell. You can go to YouTube and just type in the Keeping the Nostalgia Alive show. I will also put a link within the comment section below. You're watching this on our YouTube channel. You can also go to KTNA, our anchor.fm/KTNA for all of our audio podcasts. We're going to have this podcast up on that also today. Earlier today, we interviewed Michael Lewis. And the gentleman we're having with us today recruited Jamal Meeks as assistant coach for Michael Lewis at Ball State, being from Freeport, Illinois. Please check out the Michael Lewis interview also. With us today is legendary basketball coach Ron Felling. Coach Felling, thanks for taking some time to share your memories of the great game of basketball, your time in Indiana. And it looks like we're going to talk about some odds and ends too. It looks like you didn't dress up because you're wearing something with some dirt on it. Is that what is that?
That's a St. Louis Cardinals. You must be a Cub fan.
I'm a Cincinnati Reds fan.
Oh, well, okay. So, my condolences.
That's normally what I say to when someone has told me they went to Purdue. Well, I'm sorry about that.
Right. That's okay.
It's always interesting in my conversations. A lot of people from most people from Southern Indiana are Cardinals fans. You don't get, I guess it's based on your geography, what kind of, and where you grew up at, on what kind of a baseball fan, or maybe even what kind of radio station you got in.
Well, I was born and raised outside of, I was born in Terre Haute, but outside of Terre Haute, past Rose-Hulman on 40. I was a big Cardinal fan, and I didn't think that I'd ever get to St. Louis. I never knew where St. Louis, but I'm sitting on the wheel curb and listening to the Cardinals, and it goes out, and about 45 minutes later, it'd come back on, but I'd still be on the wheel curb trying to tune the Cardinals in. That's when they had Slaughter and Marty Marion, Red Shandies, and Whitey Karowski and Musial and that bunch. That's way before you also.
Well, I always heard that Eno Slaughter used to sharpen up his cleats when he would go into second base. Is that a true story, you think?
Well, I don't know. I would imagine, because they were tough back then. They played for keeps back then. They didn't make that kind of money. And one time I got at the 500, I got to speak with Stan Musial. He spoke first, and I was in the infield of the 500, and I was a big Indianapolis race fan, but that was a big thrill for me to get to meet him out, and I don't know what kind of job I did following him, but anyway, that was a big thrill for me.
How did you become a race fan?
Well, my next door neighbor was Ira Hall. He was a sheriff of Terre Haute, and I lived out 8 miles out of Terre Haute on 40 going east, and I come to find out that he finished third in the 500 back in his day. So I was after that I was a race fan. We'd talk about racing, and he had a little insight in it, and I was just a race fan after that.
6 degrees of separation. My great uncle, Wild Bill Cummings, won the Indianapolis 500 in 1934.
Wild Bill Cummings. Huh? Okay. All right. That's great.
Of course, they had money. We didn't have money when I grew up, and you got to have money to be in the racing business.
Oh, there's no doubt now you do. Yes. Some of those guys own 3 and 4 cars.
So did you go to the 500 often?
I've seen 55.
Wow. You're up there with Bob Nedelicki.
Well, I don't know about that, but I've seen 55 500s. Of course, I'm 82 years old, but I was going back, on the night before the race, walking the streets. However we could get over there, I'd always go with 3 or 4 guys. Sometimes we'd hitchhike over there. So, but it's been a big thrill for me, the 500-mile race. Of course, Tony Holman was from Terre Haute. So.
Yep. My aunt and uncle lived off of 16th Street, and of course they closed that down, and we would walk to the race early in the morning.
Yeah, and there'd be 3 and 4 wide park going in on 16th Street. Yes.
Yep. And if you were lucky enough to still have beer left over when it turned midnight, before race day, you could sell your beer because you can't buy beer on a Sunday in
Oh yeah.
Indianapolis.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I was there when that scaffold fell,
Oh, wow.
and there was people, laying on the ground. One was, I don't I thought he might be dead, laying on a crashed the hood of a car out there, and people were coming in and grabbing their beer and their sandwiches and their and running with them. It was ridiculous. So,
Coach, tell us a little bit about where you were born and raised and who introduced you to athletics?
well, who introduced me? Went to our little school. I went to one of the smallest schools in Terre Haute called Glen. It was about 8 miles east on 40. And back in the day, with Glen was the first school beside even Gershmeyer and Garfield and all those in there, where Sharpie coached at Garfield and Willard Kurt coached it. I mean, at Gershmeyer, and Willard Kurt coached at Garfield. He had Lavellette, and of course, uh, Jerry, Bob Leonard went to Gershmeyer, along with Sam Smith and Howard Dardine. That first five, they got beat out by Addicts. And you remember the Arlie Harley and Uncle Harold? There was a family that was their front line. Arlie and Harley, they were twins, and Uncle Harold. And supposedly the story, Arlie was a little better than Harley, but they looked alike. So when Arlie picked up 3 fouls, he switched jerseys at halftime, so make sure that he didn't foul out. Now that's what I heard, and I kind of believe it. But anyway, I did my student teaching under Howard Sharp, who was a legend at Gershmeyer in Terre Haute. So, and then I ended up playing a little bit at Indiana State University, and I was kicked off the team. I hooked a free throw. We were down 3 against Ball State, and some of my friends were hollering, "Hook it, Ronnie, hook it." So I stepped away and hooked the free throw. Of course, it just grazed the rim. And coach called me in the next day and said my best interest wasn't in basketball, so he kicked me off the team. So anyway, which I deserved it. But anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
And was that Coach Clue that did that?
Coach
Clee?
Clee.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And he's still around.
Yes, he is. He's 95 years old, but he's still at Terre Haute. And I thought about going and seeing him and apologizing uh, for my actions back when I was on the team. Uh, I played for Jack Williams, Coach Jack Williams. He was the first to play blacks in Terre Haute, and uh, this is pretty interesting. For a school in '98 in Bloomington, we went to the semifinals. That used to be the semifinals, before the Final Four. Well, anyway, we got beat by 6 points. A school in '98 in Evansville, Boise beat us and went on to win the state championship the next week, went to the Final Four. So we could have went to the Final Four but Charlie played that night, knowing that he was going to be ineligible and that they were going to forfeit the game. But our coach said we got here with him and we're going to play with him. So, and my coach was Jack Williams, Coach Jack Williams.
And so there was a big tournament that was always held at
Yes.
Glen also, wasn't there? Can you tell everybody a little bit about that?
Well, that was the Wabash Valley tournament, and there was 225 schools. It was one of the largest tournaments ever in high school tournaments in the United States at that time. There's 225 schools, and our school went to won that tournament once and finished second to Bob Leonard played. We played Gershmeyer with Bob Leonard, and I did my student teaching under Howard Sharp, who was a legend in Indiana basketball. And anyway, Bob Leonard went on to start at Indiana University with Don Schlunt and Dick Farley and that bunch. So anyway, that's about it with my background. I lived right across the street from the school, so I'd sneak over there all the time. And my dad would come over, and the kids that I was playing with said, "Here comes your dad, and he's got a switch in his hand." So when I was a little guy, he said, So he'd get me by the arm, and we'd go home. He'd be whipping me with that switch. He said, "You know, you said your mother and I work all day, and when the meal is on the table, you better be here." So anyway, that's the way I grew up.
Besides basketball, did you play other sports in high school?
I played baseball, yes, and uh, I led the league in hitting in 1955, and I was 5-0 pitching, but they left me off the All-Star team because I was kind of a wise butt, you know what I mean? So they left me home. They went on and win the World Series, the Babe Ruth World Series. So when they got home, they called me in and gave me the most valuable player after leaving me home on the, but I got the MVP award for I was 8-0 pitching, and I hit 500 and beat Terry Dischinger out for the batting title, who was, everybody's heard of Terry Dischinger, all-time pro at Purdue University. Played in the NBA for about 6-7 years. But anyway, that's my story. I was kind of a little wise, you know. Can you imagine that?
No, it's not, especially after the hook shot story you told me.
There you go. No, I know. So
Did you know, or did you play any baseball with Tommy John?
I did my student teaching when Tommy John was a senior. I umpired all the games behind the plate. I heard your interview with Tommy John, and but I had Tommy will tell you I umpired all the games behind the plate because that's when I was doing my student teaching when Tommy John was a senior, and I remember Adolph Rupp coming in, and the team was gone. They were out taking batting practice, but I was supposed to umpire. So I come in, and here comes Tommy John. I mean, Kentucky's coach Adolph Rupp and his assistant come in, and I said, "Hello," and he said, "Young man, I'm looking for a Thomas John." I said, "Well, he's out at the Spencer Field," and I said, "I'm going to umpire all the games. I mean, the game tonight." So I said, "If you let me get my stuff on, you can follow me out there." And he had his assistant with him. So anyway, he follows me, and I get out there and I walk him up to Tommy John's dad and his mother sitting behind a fence in kind of a fold up chairs. And I said, "Mr. John, this is Adolph Rupp from Kentucky." And Tommy John's dad jumped up and said, "You're wasting your time, Mr. Rupp." He said, "I hear you've been chasing those damn Benarsdale twins around over in Indianapolis." And he said, "Tommy John is not going to come to Kentucky, so you're just wasting your time." I said, "I got to go get my stuff on and get this game started." So, and after I got everything on and was behind the plate getting ready to start, I looked out there, and there was Adolph Rupp and his assistant walking back to their car. But he said, "You're wasting your time." He said, "You go back there and chase those damn Benarsdale twins around again." He said, because he said Tommy John is going to pitch baseball. That's a true story.
And he said it well on the show too. You should have been a wisecracker at that point in time with Adolph Rupp.
Well, I didn't want to say anything to Mr. Rupp.
So it's time for college. Did you plan on going to college?
Oh yeah.
Did you have other places besides? And it was Indiana State Teachers College at that point, right?
Yes. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, so my mother worked in town, so I just went to into Indiana State. And my coach, I pitched baseball and I played basketball for Coach Williams, Jack Williams. He was a great coach, and I think he's already passed on. I think his wife has passed, but I know she has. But anyway, he was a great guy and brought a little Glenn High School, a school in 98 and 4 grades, to Bloomington, Indiana for the semi-state, and we got beat by Evansville-Bosse by 6 points, and Evansville-Bosse went on to win the state tournament. So that's the Final Four. So that's that was just one of the great things about a little school like that.
When you played at Indiana State, did you by happen chance play with Basil Sofredo?
No, Basil Sopranos was before. He was at Plainfield, wasn't he?
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Yes, and no, he was before me.
So when you were at Indiana State and you were playing basketball, or even beforehand, when did you get the idea of, you know what, I want to coach?
I knew I was going to coach from, I couldn't do anything else, so I figured I better coach. And uh, my coach was a great influence on me. And when I used to go there and throw balls back early because I lived right across the street from the school. So when I'd go in the morning at 7:30, and the basketball players would get in the gym early before they go to the first hour class and shoot, and I'd be throwing balls back to them. And coach was a big influence on me. In fact, he took me up to Indiana State and introduced me to Coach Klee and said wanted me to go out for basketball. So that's Coach Williams was the reason why I got in coaching.
And when you were getting ready to graduate from Indiana State, were you wanting to stay in the area? How did you end up? Your first job was in Maryville, correct?
Yes, my first job was in Maryville, and that's where I had on my freshman team. I was a science major, so I had a science class, three classes in PE three, and I had Gregg Popovich on my freshman basketball team. How about that? And then he ends up to be the Olympic coach now.
And
But
and also a wisecracker like you.
yes, but he didn't learn anything off me, but he must have got that off somebody else.
So what was it like? I mean, you go to Maryville. I mean, is that where you wanted to go? I mean, and then
No,
how do you move on from Maryville?
I was going to the army, and my wife my first wife took a job at Maryville in English, and I got on over at Calumet Township, which was a transit place. There were a lot of people coming in and coming that lived in trailers, and they'd leave. And then I got the job at Maryville, and that's when I had Gregg Popovich on my freshman basketball team, and I taught biology and science.
Was Pop any good?
Yeah, he was a good freshman player, but I didn't dream that he'd end up being an Olympic coach. But good for him.
And then what takes you? How many years were you there in Maryville before you head to Illinois? And how do you get to Illinois?
Well, I got fired at Maryville because I took 4 or 5 days off and went to the NCAA tournament, and I just left. My wife didn't know where I was at. No one knew where I was at. I just took off and went to the state the NCAA tournament. That's when Vic Roush of Loyola tipped that ball in to beat Cincinnati, University of Cincinnati, and so anyway, I come back and they said you're best interested in the Maryville school system, so we're firing you. I said okay. So I was going to the service, and then I'm at summer school at Indiana State working on my master's, and there's a guy in there who said, at the end of this, at the last day of school, you stood up and say where you're from and what you've been doing and what your job is and where you're going. I said United States Army. I said uh, I've been drafted. I said I lost my teaching job. I didn't tell him why, but anyway, I lost my teaching job, and the guy said, "We've got a job at Lawrenceville, Illinois." And I never heard of Lawrenceville. It's right across from Vincennes, but I never heard of it. So he said, "I would like for you to come down. We've got freshman football, freshman basketball, and head baseball." Well, I was a big baseball guy, and uh, I like I said, they won the national championship, and I got the MVP award. But they left me home because I guess I was a wise man.
What were the differences at the beginning when you were in Illinois from Indiana, and was it something you had to get used to?
Not really. Not really. I had a great job. I was a driver ed teacher, so I didn't have to sit in the classroom. I get out and we, if I had errands to run, that's where the students would drive. We'd drive out here. I'd go in, get a run to do what I had to do, and we'd change drivers. But that was what I did, driver ed.
And Lawrenceville was a public school.
It was a public school. It's right across from Vincennes, Indiana.
So
Right
in
across.
that respect, you got who was zoned to come to your school.
I'm sorry.
In that respect, you got players who were actually zoned to come to that school.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No, we didn't. Now there was a couple people come in there. The Leasty boys came up from Maryville or Lawrence. Excuse me. St. Francisville, which is 8 miles west or south of Lawrenceville. So anyway, they moved in. There was a big hullabaloo about that, about the Leasty boys moving in. But that's why, and then I had the Scheidler boys. Dennis Scheidler captained the freshman team at University of Texas, and then he he moved and played at Southern Illinois and was the captain there. And then Jay Scheidler went to Kentucky and played under Adolph, not Rupp, but
Joby Hall.
Joby Hall, yeah, and he they won the national championship when he was a sophomore. His first game was against Indiana University, and he scored 23 points in his first game against Indiana. That's pretty good.
Did you have a system working where you knew the junior high coaches and you knew maybe and kind of like a feeder system in the Lawrenceville, or was anything like that around? Or
No, but I started something called Junior Pro Basketball. Junior Pro, we lowered the baskets down. We had baskets that fit over the main bank boards that dropped them down to 8 feet. And then we also had a smaller ball. And I was the director of Junior Pro Basketball in the Southern Illinois. And our team went on to win the national championship in Kentucky, where the finals were held. So we had some kids coming up, but I had our JV team and our varsity team coach the kids, and all those kids, smaller kids, they played with a smaller ball and an 8-foot goal. We hang the bank boards over the regular bank boards and it dropped the goals down to 8 foot. And all the kids would want to come in there because they saw the players, that played the night before in the varsity game. So we end up winning I don't know how many schools and how many states involved, but we had our varsity players work with even the boys and girls, both of a young age. They would learn the fundamentals of basketball, and they went on to win the Junior Pro World Series or the championship one year.
so you win your first state championship in 72, correct?
Correct.
What did you see that coming, or was it something that was built from the same freshman class all the way through the senior class?
Well, no, I just thought, that's when they dropped it to class A and they're double A, and we were in A. And I said, well, there were 700 schools in A. So I said, somebody's got to win this, and it might as well be us. So we won the first one in 72. We won a second one in 74. And then in 76, we finished third with Jay Scheidler, who was a great player at Kentucky. And then we won back-to-back 82 and 83. And we still have the record for 68 straight wins, 68-0.
68 in a row. Did you ever coach against Larry Buddy Graham?
Yes, I did. Yes, I knew Larry well. In fact, Larry passed, and Larry and I were good friends. He's from Indiana.
Yes, from Odin.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, good guy.
So you only had 77 losses in your career at Lawrenceville.
Right. That's too many.
Those 2 years where you go 68-0, which, like you just said, is still a record today. What were those years like?
Well, we just taking name and kicking butt. That's what it was good. We had good players, good kids, good. The parents were good. They didn't try to get their nose into my business, they were just good people. And they said, "You're the coach. We'll feed them and you coach them." and which is fine with me. And but we had good players and good attitudes. You don't win with dummies, and we had smart kids that wanted to win, and uh, we went 68-0, and it was a tribute to them, and uh, I was just fortunate to be sitting on the bench behind them.
Where did they play the state championships
In
while you were at Illinois?
Champaign, University of Illinois, in Champaign, Illinois.
And those people who are watching, who are familiar more with Indiana high school basketball, you see a lot of those round backboards in Illinois basketball.
Yes, we had them. Yeah, we had them, but the goals were 8 or 10 feet, and we had the same kind of nets on our goals, and we painted them orange, the rims, and we were pretty good at putting that ball through those rims too.
You just sounded like Coach Norman Dale in Hoosiers.
Well, there you go. I don't know Norman, but
oh, Gene Hackman in Hoosiers. I know you've seen the movie Hoosiers.
Gene Hackman.
Yeah, the rim's 10 feet high, same that it is in Hickory. So
right, I remember when they walked in the
Hinkle Fieldhouse.
Hinkle Fieldhouse, yeah. Look around.
With so much success that you were having in Lawrenceville, did you have the opportunity where people headhunting you to take other jobs in Illinois, or?
No, not really. My children were in Lawrenceville at the school system at the time, and I can't remember anybody calling and wanting me to move.
Tell us a little bit about the mule, Marty Simmons. What did he mean to you? Do you still stay in contact today?
Marty was a great kid. His older brother played for me also. Walt Simmons played on a very good team, and but Marty was just tremendous. He played on our junior pro team growing up. We had junior pro basketball, as I said, and you could just see the dedication that Marty had, and his dad was behind us 100%. His dad was a construction worker, and he was kind of rough. He'd say, "Martsy, you get your little butt out there and work on your shooting." You know what I mean? But he was tough, and the whole city, the town, it was only 3,400, I think, in Lawrenceville at that time, and but we raised a lot of good players brought up through there, and we had David Brooks, who captained the team at the Navy Academy and was the leading scorer there till the Admiral took over, and then Jay Scheidler played on a national championship team at Kentucky. Marty Simmons went to Indiana. I'm trying to think of Rick Leasty. He captained the team at University of Illinois, and Dennis Scheidler went to Southern Illinois, and he was a leading scorer there for a while. Chuck Hetty, another kid, went to Kentucky. He made the freshman team, but that was all. And I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of some others. We had Chuck Hetty went to Kentucky. We had a young man go to Indiana State, and another kid, Jeff Gear. He played at Southern Illinois for a while. So we had some kids come in there that were dedicated and really worked hard.
How did you build Gunnar Wyman? Did you build a relationship with Gunnar?
I knew Gunner for, yeah, we'd get together and we had a hog cook over at the park. So he'd come up, we can't tell you this, but we'd go out at night and find a hog, and we'd have it slaughtered, and then we'd have next weekend we'd have a big party over at Red Hill State Park, and Gunner would come over there, uh, there's a lot of there were coaches come from all over to that pig cook we had. Of course, we had 2 or 3 kegs too, you know.
And so would you play a lot of games over there at Vincent's Lincoln and Alice in the Adams Coliseum?
Yeah, not a lot, but we play them there, we beat them there, and we they'd beat us, of course, too, and then we beat them at Lawrenceville, and when they left, somebody threw it. One of our heathens students threw a brick through their window, through their bus window. Well, that didn't sit very well with them. So I think we canceled out after that. After one of our students or Hanyaks threw a brick through the bus window on their way home.
And Coach Wyman, what a great tombstone! You know what it says on his tombstone, right?
Yes. I'm trying to hear like what is
I'd rather be buried here than in Jasper, Indiana.
right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, with Coach Lewis being from Jasper, I brought that up to him today, and he kind of was like, I know about that. Let's just move along.
Right. How's he doing?
Oh, he's doing great. I'll post it, and you can watch that video later today. Cammy will show you, and he is pumped up and ready. He means business.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Good. See, he and AJ Guyton played together. I recruited AJ Guyton too. He was the 5th leading scorer at Indiana.
Out of Peoria.
Yeah. In fact, I recruited 3 out of the top 5 scorers. AJ Guyton was 5th, and out of Terre Haute, Indiana. Who was that, Cam? Brian Evans. Yeah, I'm sorry. Brian Evans was the 3rd leading scorer, and then Calvert Cheney was I got Calvert, and Calvert was an all-time leading scorer at Indiana University.
Coach, was it just me when I was at Indiana State? But if the wind blew a different direction, it'd stink.
Oh, I used to work down there. I used to work at Commercial Solids. Yeah, I stunk too. You know, I was I was at Commercial Solvents, and boy, it did. And I was unloading 100-pound sacks out of train cars of flour and sugar. And when one of those broke and the sugar got on you, you were sticky and sweaty all day. It was miserable. And you'd take 100-pound sacks of flour and 100-pound sacks of whatever in a train car and take them there to the top, all the way to the top of the train car, and you put them on pallets, and they'd come with a tow truck and pick it up. But no, that was a nasty job. Besides the stink and the smell and the odor of commercial solvents.
And is that what they put on railroad ties?
I don't know what they put on railroad ties, but
okay.
I've never smelled a railroad tie that smelled like commercial solvents.
See, because I didn't think Terre Haute was really that bad. Just I lived in the quad, which was there after you'd left,
right?
At Cromwell, but Terre Haute gets a bad rap.
Yeah. I lived 8 miles out past Rose-Hulman, but I hitchhike home every night after basketball practice, and then they finally threw me out of there, gave me a degree, and said, "Get out of here."
What did you enjoy most about recruiting?
Getting the players, them saying yes. Well, we're coming to Indiana. That's a lot of work, making telephone calls and talking to their parents and home visits and all that. That's and when Alan Henderson called, I recruited Alan Henderson too, and he called and said, that I'm coming to Indiana. Mercy, When I said he's coming in, and all the the office girls and everything there, they started cheering, and that had to make him feel good. But uh, I don't know. It's tiring and fun, and you're battling in there. You're trying to sell. You're trying to, and especially we're going to do the things the right way. One thing Coach Knight said, if I ever catch anybody cheating, you're going to be out of here. So I got a lot of respect for Coach there on the fact that he set us all down. Said I better not hear of anybody cheating in one way in any way.
What do you think about Indiana's new coach, Coach Woodson? And what do you think about?
Well, he ought to be pretty good. I think he had a decent year. I think they have had a good hire. I think he's a good hire, and I haven't talked to him since since he moved in. But his team improved over They lost 7 in a row there at one time, but I think they really got better there at the end. And I think he's got a great recruiting class coming in. The way I hear, we've got 4 or 5 top 25 players in the country, supposedly whoever's ranking them. I don't know. That's individual judgment there, but I think that they're going to be pretty good.
Did you did you enjoy what you did at Indiana so much that you didn't look for anything else, or were you recruited
You
to
know
do
what?
other things?
That was my mistake. I should have. I would have liked to have it, but I never. You know, Coach Knight treated me. You know, uh, good, and I was happy in Bloomington, but down deep, I really wanted to get out, get a head job, but I got to where, I got to where I was there for so long that I probably, you know, I didn't, I just probably just stay there.
Are you still a basketball junkie today? I mean, do you watch basketball all the time, or
I
does
watch basketball, but no, I'm not a junkie. No, I don't watch that. I don't watch it that much. You
you
know,
watch the pros?
No, I hate pros. I hate pro basketball. I don't watch pro basketball a bit. It's all college. I like college basketball, and but I watch the Hoosiers play, and then of course the tournaments, and but pro basketball doesn't interest me.
What do you think the transfer portal has done to the game of college basketball?
I'm not sure it's done anything good thus far. I mean, I'm sure going to help some kids, but uh, I just don't know all that much about it. But uh, the I see Indiana had about 7 or 8 enter the transfer portal, but I don't know how many of them are going to come back. But they've had a pretty good recruiting year thus far, the way
Uh,
I see it.
yep,
That,
I saw that too.
yeah, so I think Coach Woodson's going to do a good job there.
Coach, do you golf?
No,
No.
I found out if any coaches golf in the summer, I'm going to find out. That's a guy that you're going to beat his team's butt in the wintertime. Because my kids were working out and shooting and in the gym, lifting weights, doing the things that's going to improve their basketball game. No, golf didn't. Golf's a rich man's game. So I
What are your hobbies?
uh, I don't know, going to the clubs and you know, seeing my friends and talking trash and eating hamburgers and drinking a beer.
So, how long have you been retired? How long have you been out of basketball?
Uh, well, I was out. Huh, how long? Well, I've been out 23 years.
Yeah. Do you stay in contact with Coach Simmons at Eastern Illinois?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Marty and I, in fact, they're going to have a thing coming up next week or so, May 15th, and or 14th, and he's got a daughter that had a, a stroke in her sleep, and anyway, there's going to be a big thing for him. The city of Lawrenceville, 3,000 people raised $50,000 for Marty last summer, and there's going to be another thing for him coming up soon, next week or two.
Yeah, he told me about that in his interview. That's awesome. It's nice that people got together and helped that out.
Right.
So, Coach, what do you think of? I asked you about the transfer portal. What do you think when they changed Indiana high school basketball from single class to class basketball?
Well, I didn't really like it at first, and same way in Illinois, but you can't have schools of 300 competing against schools if they got a good team and competing against schools of 3,000 and 4,000, and so now you'll have times like Milan. You could beat. They beat everybody that put in front of them. You take our teams back then when we went 68-0. We beat Thornridge. Thornridge had 5,000 students in school. We had 2,700 in our town, and we beat them in the Collinsville tournament. And we also beat Collinsville, which Virgil Fletcher. Have you ever heard of Virgil Fletcher? Okay, and Collinsville was a big powerhouse. We beat Collinsville and Thornridge in the same day. And Jay Scheidler had 48 against Thornridge.
What was it like being the coach and having your kids recruited by major colleges? What kind of role did you play? Did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy giving the advice? What was that like?
Well, in a small school like us, you didn't really have that many until we got good. And then there's, did I tell you a story about Tommy John?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's when Adolph Rupp and walks in. I mean, that's a different. That was at Gershmeyer, Terre Haute. But anyway, I'm getting way behind.
I'm assuming like Joe B. Hall would come to your games when Scheidler and.
Right.
I'm assuming Coach Knight possibly came to some games when Marty was playing.
Right. Well, Joe B. and the governor and the guy that owns Secretariat came in and stayed. They brought a trailer and stayed in it for 3 days in the parking lot. So they came to get Scheidler and they gave him a horseshoe off of Secretariat, and all this but that was a good time. I took Joe B. We got a little referee named Jerry Turner, and I took Joe B. into the bar, and Jerry's a referee, and he wasn't very good. But I said, Jerry, interview with a coach here about maybe being a radio announcer for the Wildcats. So he's got this beer bottle and he's talking into it. And he said, I'm here at the tavern. And he said, we're talking to the great Joe B. Hall of Kentucky University. And he said, Joe B., how's she going today? And he holds that beer bottle over and pours beer down the front of Joe B.'s shirt on his tie. That was a riot, man. I mean, he holds that beer bottle out there and pours it right down Joe B.'s chest.
About how big was your gym in Lawrenceville?
Well, regulation court.
Well, no, I understand that, but like, what did it hold? A couple thousand people?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah,
about that, and they'd fill it, and then they had people sitting on the stage. I remember one time, they had sold out. The tickets had sold out, and I got there. I'd go by the tavern before the game, and there'd be guys in there, and I'd say, now look, if you got any suggestions for the coach, tell me now because I don't want to hear them afterwards. And they said, "Oh, coach, come on." I said, "No, I'm here. If you got any suggestions, give them to me now, because that way, we'll be able to implement them if I think they're any good." So anyway, but so I'd get there a little late to the JV game's still on, and it's not even halftime yet. But so there was a bunch of people, about 50 people outside, and they said, "Coach, they sold tickets out." I said, "You wait right here outside the weight room." I opened the weight room window, and I got 50 people in that weight room, and now it's still locked on the outside. And the women had dresses on. They pulled their dresses up, and they was coming through that window. They didn't care. They were coming in. So I had that weight room full of people. So I looked out, and there was no one coming. So I opened the door, and here 50 more people went in there, and they've already got maximum capacity. And here come the principal around around the corner. He said, "What in the world is going on?" I said, "These people want to see the game." And I said, "I just let them in." He said, "Well, how many of them are?" I said, "I don't know, 50 or so." So I said, "They can sit on the stage or stand up in the corner. I don't care where they are, but I wanted to let them in." So anyway, he just shook his head and went on.
You
So
were not the fire marshal's friend.
no, I wasn't the fire marshal's friend, but I was a friend of all those people that got in.
Who was the greatest high school player that you've seen play?
Oh, the greatest high school player. Well, I played against Oscar Robertson, and they beat us 43 and sent us home with 43. That was one of the first games. That was when I was at Indiana State. Let's see. Clyde Lovellette, maybe, way back when I was a kid. Terry Deschinger was another one at Garfield. And so Bob, let's see, Bob Leonard in the Wabash Valley tournament. See, my dad would let me off of school and let me go in, and I'd be watching games at the old Indiana State gym when the Wabash Valley tournament was the largest individual tournament in the United States. 228 teams, and they play down to 16 and come in and play down to 8, and then they'd bring the final 4 in and play 2 games in the afternoon on Saturday and then one for the championship. In fact, Glenn, my little school, won it twice with Charlie Sessions. That was in '48, back when I was just a kid.
When did they close, Glenn?
They consolidated with Gershmeyer, and I'm not sure. 60.
It was in the early 70s.
I'm not.
It was the early 70s.
And now it's just Terre Haute South and Terre Haute North, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was. They went into Gershmeyer, and it had to be in the 70s.
Yeah. Do you think that record of? I think it is that record of 68-0. Has it even been challenged?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Do you get back to Lawrenceville very often?
I was back there a week or so ago, and we're going to go back for Marty. I think Marty Simmons is that thing for Marty,
Yeah.
where they raise money for his daughter.
And how about Bloomington? You get back to Bloomington very often?
I live in Bloomington.
Okay.
Cammy and I live in Bloomington. She was a critical care nurse, and she just retired about 6 months ago. Now we're broke. No, no. She retired, and now I'm out picking up cans, and so. But anyway.
Well, we have 3 sycamores here. I'm a sycamore. She's a sycamore.
Yeah.
And you're a sycamore.
Yeah.
And where are we doing this? Where are you at? You said this is your grandson's studio.
Yes.
And what does he do? Does he do podcasts?
Yeah, just a minute. Come here, Wyatt. Come in here and tell him what this is my grandson Wyatt Felling.
Hey Billy, how are you?
With the interview, you get free advertising. What do you do, Wyatt?
Who gets free advertising?
You.
Oh, I do.
Yeah. What do you do? What kind of podcast do you have?
Um,
Where's the studio that you're at currently?
Yeah, so the studio is located. We're like 1 block off Monument Circle in downtown Indianapolis, Indiana. So what we do basically is people come in that are doing their own show, their own podcast, and we handle the recording, the production, and the publishing. So they come in, talk for an hour, and then once they leave is when we actually do all the production, the camera angles, all that. And then once we have the final product, we publish it for them. Just like how you publish yours on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, we do that for them. Then we also publish it to YouTube.
Now, he's in his son's 15 or 13-story office building here, half a block off the Circle.
Is he close? Is Dockage in that area at 107.5?
Who is it?
Dan Dockage?
Dockage is about a block away.
Block away. Okay.
Yeah, he's right on the Circle. We're about a block off the Circle.
Okay. And what's your place called?
It's called Wave One Media.
Wave One Media. Very cool. Yep. Thank you, Wyatt.
Yep. No, I appreciate it.
Yeah. No problem. And Coach, tell me about your kids and how many grandkids you have.
Well, quit laughing. I've got 5 grandkids, 6 grandkids. Yeah, 6 grandkids. I got Chance. My oldest son has got 4. And Wyatt's one of them, and he's got an older brother, and he's got an older sister that's just graduating from Ball State, and then he's got a young gal coming up that's a terrific shooter. She can shoot, and Caruso could sing, and she can tickle the twine from 29, so.
Coach, what was the favorite game that you were a part of, or were like, that was got to be or you were totally exhausted after the game and it was a victory? What's the greatest game you've been a part of? Besides, you didn't include high school too.
Well, the greatest game is when it was my scout and I sat with Coach when we beat number 1 UNLV in the tournament, when we went on to win and beat Syracuse in the final game, and but that was probably one of the biggest thrills. And then going 68-0 had to be pretty fun. I thought, hell, bring on the Celtics. We'll beat them too. No, I knew better, but anyway, I'm just
Still wisecracking.
Coach Ron Felling, I've probably gone a little bit long and probably racked your brain, but I thank you.
What's left of it? There wasn't much to start with, Go ahead.
I thank you so much for being on the program. This was fantastic, and I think everyone will enjoy.
Well, I hope so. Listen, thank you very much for inviting me on, and God bless you.
I appreciate it. Thank you, and God bless you too. And tell Cammie I'll get back with her on Messenger.
Okay, thank you.